This is a multi-pronged issue. The basis of the question is that she has a best friend who's a guy that wants a friends with benefits situation.
I'm shocked. A guy that's a friend that wants more in high school?
Yeah.
What are the chances?
It's a situation that we're both familiar with and I'm sure can relate to from the men's perspective particularly, but I definitely have some thoughts for this young woman as well. This is her question. She's 15. She says, I have a guy best friend who knows I've had feelings for him since last year. We are both in band together and spend a lot of time with each other there. We had a friends with benefits thing last year, but he was 17 then. He's about to turn 18 and I'm 15. What should I do? I know he probably has been using me, but I genuinely think I'm in love with him, and he knows this. I need all the advice I can get. Several things, right? But the thing that got me is people think about band kids as nerds and, stupid band kids, right? Band kids are some of the wildest kids in high school.
This one time at band camp, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the stereotype,
Yeah.
classic. But if you think about it, what other time in high school are that many co-eds spending that much time together? You might think of any athletic team, but that's mostly single sex and it's seasonal. With band, you're talking about, in some cases, like in my high school, several hundred kids, co-ed. We're spending time before school starts at band camp. We're spending time on buses going to and from football games and marching competitions. We're spending time after school, continuing to learn the sets, all these things. Then going on a spring trip, potentially somewhere, going to different competitions around the country. You're spending so much time in a confined space in a large pool of co-eds. Some wild stuff can happen, man, just because the opportunity is so much higher than any other high school endeavor.
I can imagine. And so you said going around competing, right? I guess it's more competitions than like displays or... I've never been.
It depends, right? You can do
have
competitions, you
demos,
can do a parade, you can,
Okay,
I mean, whatever.
So the point is you're traveling, right?
Yeah,
and they're
there's a
away
lot
from
of
home and
travel.
they're staying in hotels and
Yeah, and you're on buses overnighting together and you're sitting with whoever you want to sit with.
yeah, man.
Yeah.
That is a recipe for debauchery.
Yeah. And so this brought back so many memories of that time in life for me, and I totally get it. In terms of this specific situation, the first thing that flags for me is the age difference. 15 and 18.
Yeah.
And you and I had a conversation about this the other day, that a 3-year gap really doesn't feel like a big deal, particularly once you get outside of high school. We both know people who are dating or married to people with a 10-year age difference between the spouses or significant others. But in high school, especially at this age, this range is like that gray area. You know, if you think about it like the ocean and the river, it's like the brackish where it all kind of mixes, but it's a little, you can't really say if it's kosher or not.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing that caught my attention was he's about to turn 18, but this started last year. So conceivably, she was 15 and he was 17 at that time. Or she could have been a year younger, just depending on how it falls. And, I think certainly at that point, it's less gray, as you say. But certainly once he approaches 18, it's much more gray.
Yeah.
That's a tough one, man.
Here is where, if you want to look at it from a strictly legalistic perspective, depending on the state you're in, where you live, there are juvenile statutory rape implications from something like this. The likelihood of that coming out, I don't know. Again, it depends on your situation. Do your parents know about this situation? Is this something where if your parents found out about it, they'd fly off the handle and report this? Because if so, that could be a real sticky situation for him immediately, especially if he's looking to go to college and all of a sudden this hits his transcript or is on his record, the school's going to find out about it. Is that going to jeopardize something for his future? Whether or not it's consensual doesn't really matter just because of the way the law is written. So that's the first thing. You just want to make sure you consider up front that this could potentially sabotage or sink him in a way that you don't want to have happen.
Yeah, that's a great point. Actions have consequences. And so even if everything is great between them and they're in love and they truly do intend to get married, or aside from she thinks he's using her, etc., like you said, if her parents find out and they're not happy, they can send that sideways real quick and he can be headed off to jail. I think we could frame the rest of the question almost as if that wasn't an aspect, right?
Yeah, and I think that's how we need to approach it.
Yeah.
Because that is what it is. And that's anybody in any situation where you've got someone who's over the age of consent versus someone who is, by law, not over the age of consent.
And welcome to the age of consent. Actions now have large consequences.
Yes.
This is adulthood.
Yeah. And that's where it gets a little rough. And it's easy to overlook that when you're a little bit younger. The next key element to me is that she says she thinks she's pretty sure that he's using her. I'm going to go ahead and say 100% he is using you. And it might not be in the malicious way that someone who is really trying to manipulate you might be, especially if you have a long history as friends. But if you're honest about it, if he's not using you, why wouldn't this be a relationship? Why would this be a friends with benefits rather than, hey, we're dating, girlfriend, boyfriend, this is a thing? To me, the fact that it's presented as a friends with benefits is a way of saying, well, this, for me, is a way of guaranteeing that I'm going to be able to get something and scratch that itch, so to speak, without having any strings attached. So if I'm concurrently out looking, shopping for another partner, I don't have any guilt if I decide to move on and then friends with benefits ends. So it's kind of a free ride. It's a free pass, and it's a tricky way of going about doing it. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, first, I don't condone what this guy's doing. What's interesting to think about is we all use each other in some way, shape, or form. And she could, in essence, be using him because she needs in her life, or wants in her life, emotional stability. And so that is the need he is meeting if she can get him to become her boyfriend.
Yeah, but this isn't that. Because the whole point of this is the friends with benefits thing is exactly that. It's ignoring and avoiding the emotional stability.
Yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is that in this situation, like two people, he's looking for something, the male is looking for something from her, and she's looking for something from him. They may be different things, and they may have different motivations. One may be emotional support, stability. One may be meeting a physical need. I think in all relationships, we all use each other in a way, right?
Yeah, we do.
That's just more of an interesting observation. I'm not trying to say this is right, this is wrong, or defend this guy in any way, because it does sound a little sus. And I actually found out this week that I'm too old to use that word. So if that's true and you are not as experienced as we are, could you let us know if that is in fact not an okay word for us to use at our advanced state? So anyways, yeah, it's just a sticky situation, but if you feel that something's off.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
If your gut's telling you that he's using you, then you're probably right. And if he was not using you, you would know it because there would be more of a commitment from him to you rather than a, hey, can we fool around, but also not seriously because, and it could just be, he doesn't want to get into anything serious before he goes to college because he knows that it's going to end at that point. We don't know the details of the situation, but based on the fact that she feels like she's probably being used, I would lean that way. This is a great time to have that true and open, honest conversation. If this is truly a good friend and you have a good relationship and you've had a good friendship for years, that's a conversation you should be able to have with full transparency. Hey, where do you see this going? And why do you want the friends with benefits side of it? What does that look like to you? And why couldn't we just date?
Yeah, the other aspect I think one should consider is many of us in our 20s, 30s, and 40s are still figuring out relationships, right?
Absolutely.
And so at 15, 16, 17, 18, we're figuring out how to enter in relationships outside of just strictly platonic relationships or family relationships. And maybe we didn't have a good model at home, or maybe we just don't know. We don't have any idea. We don't have any context. We're very self-centered. Maybe these are situations that could occur or could be the case. I think sitting down and discussing it openly, just sit down and have that conversation, and let him know that you feel like you're being used and that you have deeper feelings. If you've never verbalized this, maybe he doesn't know. And he's like, hey, we're just having fun, two young kids, getting ready to go our separate ways and everything's cool. Really, communication, as with everything in life, is key.
It should go without saying, but it definitely needs to be stated. Boys at this age are fucking stupid. We are
animals.
That, but also just oblivious.
Yeah.
Unless something is directly stated, you might think that based on everything you've done, said, acted, the way you interact, that he knows you like him. But there's a very strong possibility that he is just head in the clouds and his head is not thinking in that same way. So you absolutely should make sure that you verbalize that specifically if you want him to comprehend and be on the same page with you as to where your head is with it.
Yeah, just sit him down and remove all doubt.
Yeah. And at that point, it might scare the shit out of him. He might be like, whoa, so I didn't know that that's where you were and I am not there. Or maybe I am there. And this friends with benefits thing was a way for me to try and get closer to you without also stating my intentions, because I'm also afraid of rejection. And I'm nervous that this is awkward for both of us if I say this out loud. So clearing the air and clearly stating your intentions, your desires, and specifically your needs and expectations of this situation is critical.
Yeah.
The third thing I'll say is that this young woman says she's in love with him. And I discussed this with Anna last night, my wife. I shared the prompt with her, and she agreed with me on the first two. I didn't say anything. She just went to town and laid out her points. And the third one she hit on was, you don't know what love is. And I'm not going to go that far, because you do know what love is. But I think there are nuances and layers to love that you don't fully grasp until you get older. One of the longest chapters in the book is the chapter about love, and it breaks down the different types of love, what they mean, and how you need to be thinking about it. At this point in your life, at 15, could it be love? Yeah, possibly. But what type of love are we talking about? If you're talking about Eros, that just fire in your pants kind of love, we all know that kind of love. But that kind of love is different from the kind of love that I believe you are likely looking for. And that is security with a partner who trusts and that you can trust. And that is a reciprocated feeling. So you can be in love with someone, and I would say it's more infatuation with someone, an obsession with someone, any crush you've had. Could you be in love? I suppose, in your own way, yes. But true love is reciprocated, and the terms of that agreement are known to both parties. I think that's the big differentiator here.
What are your thoughts on someone being 15 and looking for or wanting that type of love?
I think everybody does. It's just a little bit different, and a lot of it's socially constructed. Young women are given dolls and dolls that have boyfriends, and princesses in Disney movies wind up with the love of their life. All of these constructs that are presented to women as how they should grow and what they should look for and strive for, I think puts a different perspective of what that expectation on a relationship or love is than it does for men. I think that's part of the issue. I don't think that you need to be looking for love at this point in your life. It's easy to say, but I know that if I was on the other side listening to this conversation, I would be giving both middle fingers to us. You assholes don't know what you're talking about. I'm in love. And it's that puppy love, that first girlfriend that you're serious with, where it's like, yeah, ride or die, baby. But until you've actually been through some shit together, that's when the real test hits. And I think that's where a lot of couples get displaced. You look at people who get married because they're in love, when really it was just our pants were on fire for each other. We couldn't stop touching each other. We were like this for like 2 years and we decided to get married. If you haven't been through shit, or at least had the conversations about your shit, and you don't know who that person is truly on the inside, that stuff's gonna come out. It's gonna come out, and if you're not ready for it or you don't like what you find, that's where breakups can happen in a real bad situation. If you've already gotten married and you realize this stuff's coming out, now you're screwed, because now you're going through divorce, now you're going through all kinds of other challenges with it. That's a meandering way of saying it. Is that what you were looking for?
Yeah, I think so. I think another thing to note too is have reasonable expectations if you're young and in this situation. By and large, these relationships don't last. It does happen. I've got a cousin who met his girlfriend in high school over 25 years ago, a little less than 25, but they're coming up on a 25th anniversary, and they've just been awesome. They have an amazing relationship and some great kids and everything. So it does happen, but it's more the exception than the rule. But again, that is perspective that if I gave myself at that age, wouldn't be received.
It's situational too. If you are from a small town, you don't really plan on leaving. Your goal is to graduate high school so you can go work in the factory or go work in this trade, but not leave your small area. And your partner, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, is of that same mindset, that makes more sense because that's a limited pool that you're going to be working with. But if you have aspirations of going to college, maybe moving out of state, even if it's temporary, going and checking out living in a city or vice versa, going and living in a small town, and just getting a bigger feel for the total flavor that life offers on the full palate, man, I would encourage you not to be too
Hasty.
Yeah, that's a perfect word for it. Don't be hasty. Don't be hasty.
There's plenty of time. Yeah, experience life a little bit before you lock down your path.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You don't want to limit yourself right now, even though this is biologically wired into you to want to lock it down. This is my guy. I'm staying for life. But I'll tell you what, even if you guys were both on that same page right now and you wanted the exact same things out of this relationship, at 15 and 18, give yourself 5 years. I guarantee you there's going to be major differences in both of you, because this stretch from 15 till 23, 25 is when you're going to find out who you truly are. And things will change about you, both physically and emotionally, the way you see the world. It will just start to come together differently. And part of that is because your brain is still maturing.
Yeah, I was going to say exactly that. Physically, emotionally, and intellectually. And even at 25, there's intellectual development that will continue beyond that.
Yeah. Right now, you're being controlled by your body's hormones and the natural instinct of let's find a mate, let's procreate, and then we're going to die in the next 5 to 7 years. But we live a whole lot longer now than we did when this code was written. So you got to keep that in mind.
Find a mate, procreate, and it'll be great.
Another way to think about this, if you're a Swiftie, like I am.
I am too. Oh, and my daughter is, by the way. She just referred to herself as a Swiftie the other day. I was like, yes.
Look at Taylor Swift, a great example, right? So it's a woman who has made her career writing about her love life. Good, bad, all of it. And if you look at her earlier works, that album Red, that is a description of what she imagined love as at that point in time.
Love Story? Is it Love
No,
Story?
that's
It's
on a
Love Song.
previous album.
I don't know,
Yeah.
but that's a great song.
Sorry, you're a little, that's
Yeah.
on Fearless.
Yeah.
But-
Oh, look, you did. Okay, you are a Swiftie. I'm not.
So yeah, but the point is, in that album, Red is how she describes love. And that is that just throbbing love of
That's
just
explicit.
like, you're literally seeing red because the sexual attraction is that strong. But if you look at her later work now, after she's been through relationship after relationship and being, all this shit happening to her, and now she looks at love as golden. Yes, it's all artistic, it's all analogy and trying to, what the fuck I'm trying to say. But the difference is true love, again, just goes back to it's that reciprocal thing. There's a difference between just being passionate and wanting to be with that person, and the physical attraction is real and raw. And then a depth to a golden hue of we get each other on a level because we've been through shit together. And I'm not talking about we had a bad band trip and half the people got food poisoning and we were throwing up and holding each other's hair. Yeah, that's some shit. But when you have someone in your family die, or someone close to you leaves, or you've both been through some vicious breakups, there's just an endless pile of shit waiting for all of us in life. And until you've hit some of those really, really tough hurdles, you don't know truly what you're after and who's going to be able to provide for you what you really want, that you would consider true love, I think.
Yeah, you got to test it with fire.
Those are my thoughts. Take it for what it's worth. But at the end of the day, if you feel like he's using you, yeah, he probably is. And for all the guys out there listening, for me, this is a gray area because it's not a forced thing. He's asking, right? It's still kind of dirty because he knows what he's asking for and he knows why. So to me, it still is like, it's a little underhanded there, bud.
But again, not to defend him, if he doesn't know that she wants something more and she's into him beyond that, he could be completely oblivious. And we're reading a lot into this.
Yes.
But the point
this
is,
is on the flip side of that.
have the conversation.
Have the conversation. There is a time and a place for just having fun. And typically that's going to be after high school. Because people have a chance to figure out who they are, what they want, what they feel comfortable doing. And then when you get into college and beyond college, friends with benefits, casual sex, that stuff becomes more of an acceptable thing. High school it's so packed with judgment, especially for young women. So to ask someone for this and knowing that she's younger than you, when you graduate and you leave, whatever that reputation that she gets out of this is going to stick with her for the rest of that high school period. So you have to be cognizant of that too. If you are truly a friend of hers and you consider this a good friendship, do you want to put her in a position where it's going to potentially sabotage and make high school for her suck worse than high school already sucks? Man, just think a little bit more deeply about what you're going to be leaving in your wake.
That's good advice. Again, we're also self-absorbed. This individual in this situation may be completely unaware. And so just in general, thinking through how our actions impact others, I think is good advice for a lot of different things in life.
You have the advantage of not having gone to public high school.
But I had a lot of fun in high school.
Okay, and I guess
A lot of fun.
So speaking from that perspective, putting yourself back at that point in time, if I'm honest, I can absolutely see myself doing what this guy is doing.
Yeah.
And I know that I would have known what I was doing in that moment, and I would have felt a little bit guilty about it inside. But that drive, that sex drive, is just so primal at that age that I would have absolutely ignored what was really being said in my head.
But again, I think you're operating under the assumption that there was some sort of agenda here or this is known to be nefarious behavior. They've been friends. This has been going on. I don't think it's safe to make that assumption.
I'm just saying that I can see where he's coming from with it. I'm saying that I would have done, and I did do some shit that was very similar. I did try to coerce someone. I did try to pursue that, and it wound up not going anywhere. It didn't go well for me, and there's a good chance it's not going to go well for him, depending on what this young woman decides to do. But it's a tough time to be trying to fight your conscience and knowing what the right thing is to do and not having the development of your prefrontal cortex to think all the way through the repercussions of what you're doing.
Impulse control,
Impulse control. And not having it. I get that. I remember that vividly. So I understand that I cannot fully condemn this, but I'm just giving a perspective to the other guys out there that are listening or watching this. Hey, I've been there. Every guy has been there at some point. I'm just telling you, man, it's not going to go as well for you as you think, and you might wind up regretting it and carrying some of that burden with you down the line.
Don't be a tool.
Don't be a tool.
Be awesome to people.
That's good advice. Well, I think that'll do it for us this week. But guys, thank you for tuning in, checking this out. The video version of this will be constrained to just answering the question. But if you want to hear the full conversation of what Will and I have going on in our lives and what else leads and ties into this, you can find all of the full-length episodes on Spotify, CastBox, Google, Apple, anywhere you can find major podcasts. If you want to reach out, if you have questions that you want to ask us, want to hear two knuckleheads give good uncle advice on, go ahead and shoot us an email or check out the website, thathighschoolbook.com. Drop us a note there, and you can remain anonymous. This is just us spitballing and pulling from our lived experience and trying to connect to what you're going through right now.
Yeah, and don't hesitate to let us know if you disagree with us or if you have a perspective that is other than ours, because we'd love to share that too.
Right on.
Pleasure as always, my friend.
Man. Catch you next time.